Hey guys, it's Necromus here. I've been wanting to make this Survivor wishlist video for a while, as I had a lot of fun making my Killer Wishlist video in the past, and there's quite a few survivors from different horror movies and games that I'd love to see make their way to Dead by Daylight. I won't be discussing full chapters, but rather survivors that could be added on their own, or from a license that's already in DBD, but that excluded these characters. Let's get into it. So, first and foremost, my girl Sidney Prescott from the Scream movies. Now yes, Ghostface, the killer from Scream, is in-game, but it's not as straightforward as you might think. Ghostface is a Halloween costume, whose rights are owned by a company called Fun World. Scream borrowed the rights to the costume for their iconic killer, but they don't own the costume specifically. So it seems like Behavior opted for getting the rights for the costume, and not the character from Scream, which is why the man under the mask is a made-up character that doesn't exist in any of the Scream continuity. While it is cool they found a loophole to include Ghostface, it still really just feels like dangling the carrot, as we have epic final girls in games such as Laurie Strode and Ellen Ripley, but we're missing Sidney Prescott from Scream. She's probably my favorite final girl from any horror movie, and considering she's kicked more Ghostface ass than anybody else, she definitely deserves a spot as a survivor. If Behavior ever acquired the rights for her character, she would make for an awesome paragraph survivor. It would really feel like a true extension of the Ghostface paragraph. Now, aside from all the cringy fanbase kind of running his name through the mud, I really liked Eddie Munson from the 4th season of Stranger Things. Ideally, we would get a second chapter like Resident Evil got, with Vecna as the killer, and Eddie and Robin as survivors. I don't have a strong feeling that this will happen, so the next best thing is a legendary skin for Steve that transforms him into the badass rocker Eddie. Recently, the Stranger Things license has been renewed, and everything was added back to the shop, so maybe we can expect more cosmetics to come. Probably the survivors I would love to see the most are hillbilly legends Tucker and Dale. This would make for a perfect paragraph, since there isn't really a killer from that movie to add. These two lovable hicks would fit in this game perfectly. Bad luck seems to follow them everywhere they go, so why not throw them into the entity's realm? Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is my favorite horror comedy, and I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's an older movie that kinda has a niche fan base, so I'm not sure how likely this would be, but I absolutely would start playing Survivor regularly again if these two were added. When you think of humans from the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, who comes to mind? Your answer should be Nancy, because it's definitely not Quentin, the survivor we got in the Nightmare on Elm Street chapter. He's so forgettable and a bad representative. If we ever got Nancy, it would be a dream come true. The reason for this is because Behavior only got the rights for the remake movie, and the new Nancy kinda sucked ass, so they opted for Quentin, I guess? The OG Nancy is another one of my favorite final girls of all time. Unfortunately, the original Nightmare movie rights are, well, excuse my pun, but a real nightmare to acquire. Even Mortal Kombat went with the remake Freddy, but if we ever got a Robert Englund cosmetic, I think it's safe to assume we'll get Nancy as a survivor with it. Whether it's a legendary skin or the real deal, whatever, it needs to happen. I understand why we got Detective Tapp in the Saw chapter, but considering how much of a fan favorite Adam was, and the fact he's actually in a Saw trap, would make him a perfect survivor. I really don't see there being a second Saw chapter, or Behavior adding Adam as a paragraph survivor, so I really think our best shot at this happening is as a legendary skin for Tapp. It would be good enough for me, and more Adam is something all Saw fans would love to see. Now, while I would love to see a full-blown Dead Space chapter, I'd equally be fine just seeing Isaac Clarke added as a survivor. He'd have such a different vibe than the rest of them in his iconic spacesuit armor. Admittedly, it would be weird seeing him run away unarmed, but we also got Ash in this game, so that part really doesn't matter to me. Isaac Clarke is one of my favorite video game characters of all time, and he's seen much more fucked up shit than anybody in Dead by Daylight has. I really hope if this ever happens, they give him a perk related to his stasis ability. Not sure how it would work, maybe he could briefly freeze the killer once per match with it. Either way, it's another thing I would love to see added to the game. This last survivor on my list is sort of a curveball, the one and only Lara Croft. Sure, Tomb Raider isn't a horror series, but this chick has survived some crazy shit that deems her worthy of being a survivor. Plus, she's an iconic video game character, and I really see her fitting more here than in Call of Duty. She could have some really kick-ass perks and different cosmetics. I'd love to see this as a paragraph. Don't know how likely it is, but I have seen some fan demand for it, as well as her appearing on the DVD player surveys. So who knows? Anything is possible. When I think of survivors I want to see added to Dead by Daylight, these were the characters that came to mind. I'm sure I could think of a lot more, and if you guys like this video, a part 2 could definitely happen in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, this has been Nickfamous. See you later.